All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Hope everybody had a great day. We had a green day in the Bitcoin miners. We're going to talk about the Bitcoin miners. We're talk about Bitcoin, some other stuff. And hello, George.
Tom, hello everyone.
How are you doing today, George?
I don't know yet. I'm still waiting. I'm in some complicated trades right now.
Are you? Got a lot of moving pieces.
Great day in the market, huh?
This was a good day. For me, this was a unexpected day. So maybe that can be our next poll.
That was awesome.
I
I just put up a poll asking about HUT, if it was a good investment or not. Yes, 45, no, 55. 44 votes. Wow.
we'll get some more votes in on that one before we get a final, but it's a little bit of a
Wow.
split decision. Well, welcome everybody. For starters, if everybody could do us a giant favor and please smash the like button. It helps the stream out in real time. It gets people onto the stream. We got a lot to talk about. We want to know what you guys think is next and whether or not you guys were surprised today like I was. How about you, George?
No, I think they're going to take out the longs. I think they're going to try to take out the longs.
If to take out the longs, then they would have to go. This would have to go down.
Oh,
to take out the shorts, it would have to go.
I don't know
up.
what it's called, but I know it's going to 45.
You feel like the next move is to 45,000.
Yeah, but I don't think we're out of the woods yet.
Next move to 45, but that's temporary in your opinion?
Right. I think so. I think it could be a very interesting February.
We'll definitely going to talk a lot more about that. Hopefully everybody made some money today. This is I'm beside myself. It's a green day. It's been a while, right? December 27th was an awesome green day, and really pretty much since then we really haven't seen a day like this. So I'm just going to go through some of the numbers while we're waiting for people to get here. If you guys could, I know I just asked, but we're only at 59 likes. We're going for 500 likes. So if you guys could smash the like button, it does help out the stream. Hello to all of our members. Welcome to the live stream. And hello to subscribers. And hello to everybody who's here. Let's see. We're going to see today whether more people show up for a stream on a good day than on some of the previous weeks. We've had some kind of panic days. And so let's see. Maybe everybody's just enjoying their Friday. So let's just quick, then we'll run this down a couple of times. But for starters, I just want to go through. Let's talk about I'm going to split it into the I'm calling them the large cap stocks, the larger Bitcoin miners versus the smaller Bitcoin miners. And by the way, out of the 19 that we follow on this channel, all 19 are green today. Let's see, what's the worst performer on the day? I mean, there were no bad performers. Iris Energy was up 5.17%. That looks like the worst one on my board. But I want to go through some of the big winners. Man, HUT must have had a surge at the end of the day. Bitfarms was up over 12.5%. HUT was up 13%. Cleanspark just under 10%. Marathon just under 10%. Cipher was up 16%, but we're going to look at that chart later because they've had a bumpy road. They had some news come out. Their stock pulled way back. So, it kind of had a little bit of a recovery today. BitDeer, which, is one of the larger market caps, that was up 15%. Bit Digital, stock ticker BTBT, up 9%. TeraWolf was up 11%. And then when you get into the small market cap stocks, Argo Blockchain was up almost 22%. Mawson was up almost 20%. DigiHost 26%. Any was up 25%. DMG Blockchain was up just under 18%. So we had huge moves to the upside today. And, this is often the case on these types of days where, this is why we talk about the risk reward and these small cap stocks, on days like this, you can get a 25% pop. And we got, over 20 on, a lot of these small cap stocks. But the thing was, on the big ones, this was a great day as well. And Bitcoin, just to put it in perspective, Bitcoin, let's do the math here. So, the gold line, as always, is where Bitcoin was yesterday when the US equity markets closed. So, from yesterday's close until today's close, which was technically right here, we were up, Bitcoin was up over 5%, 5 to 5.5%. It's pulling back a little bit right now. It's still up over 5% as we speak from yesterday. So, a lot. That's a huge move to the upside. So, in light of that, some of these moves make some more sense. The Bitcoin miners, I am going to go through some charts because the Bitcoin miners, I thought, behaved very strong this week. And I'm going to show you why. It's not like this was the biggest up week ever, but compared to what was going on with Bitcoin, I thought I said this last week, I thought we were moving in the right direction, and I think we're moving there again. Cleanspark to 100. Thank you very much for the super chat. Cleanspark to 100 said, imagine still being bearish after 20% correction, CME gap fill, and the halving in 82 days, all while BlackRock and Fidelity haven't started allocating capital to BTC. Those waiting for Cleanspark at $5 get wrecked. And that is from Cleanspark to 100. Yeah. That's, I did think there was a little bit of a pullback left. I still do think we could have a little, I don't think we're going to see Cleanspark at $5. I do think there's a chance. We'll go to the 1 day in a few minutes and talk about, what some targets to the upside are and some targets to the downside. Let me start by just saying, regardless of whatever my views might be on the next week or two, I remain extremely bullish on Bitcoin for 2024 and for 2025. So, I agree with everything Cleanspark to 100 just said. To be bearish in anything other than, we never know. They're making this more and more difficult to guess, what, and I'm using the word guess because that's really what it's starting to feel like, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in the next week. But, for me anyway, that's not my time frame. So if, for those of you who are trading in those time frames, let us know in the comments if you're getting this right. I think this is getting increasingly difficult to figure out what's going to happen today, tomorrow, this week. There's so much. I'm going to go through some of the FUD that came at us this week. It was overwhelming. And to that extent, I thought Bitcoin itself held up very well. I mean, they threw everything but the kitchen sink at Bitcoin this week. And, it had that big move down at the beginning of the week. And then it seemed like, everybody was talking about moves down to 37, 34, 32. I heard a lot of numbers. And we've been talking about 38,000 on this channel for a long time. And we really did not get there. We got to, on my chart, we got down to $38,501 was the low. Clive, thank you very much for the super chat. Clive said, Hut 8 news today. Prusak to depart January 31st to assume role as chief executive officer of new Bitcoin mining company. Your take on this? The way that they announced it in the press release was that this was already information they had disclosed. I mean, to me, that is not, no offense to this individual, that is not one of the key players at Hut 8. So I don't think this was a shakeup at the top. I mean, we know who is running the show over there. So I don't think this, to me, this was a very nothing news, which, that's two press releases in a row. I'm going to say they're 0 for 2 because the previous press release was pretty serious, nothing as well, in my personal opinion. So, and we could talk about that as well. I think there was a reason for that, and it may be playing out the way they wanted to. I mean, HUT was up. I think HUT was up 20% yesterday. It's up another 13% today. So it is recovering, but remember, it did get, it got beat up badly last week. So, Clive, thanks for asking. To me, I don't think that was a big deal.
Yeah, we need to talk about Tesla too. I'd like to go back to some of the. We need somebody to go through our what are they called? Our old videos, Tom.
Yeah.
And pull out some snippets. Some
Little
snippets,
highlights
Tom.
and
Some
whatnot.
snippets.
I just happened to see Barry say, I don't know why Tom is surprised. He said it might dip for 2 weeks after the ETF. Yeah, I mean, Barry, I'm not at all surprised by, thanks for being a member, by the way. I'm not at all surprised by the dip that's happening. I just literally, just today is what surprised me. I didn't see this 5% pop coming today. And I'm just not sure, in the super short term, in the days and week or so to follow, I'm just not sure, if we're going up or down in the next, 5 days. So in the next month, 3 months, 2024, I've said, I haven't changed my mind on any of that. And we did talk a lot on this channel about, that couple of weeks after the ETFs. Everybody was ultra excited about the ETFs. And I will, I have the same position. I think the ETFs are the biggest catalyst in the history of Bitcoin. I don't, I think that it's only just begun. I've been saying it's the gift that keeps on giving, because this is going to create demand pressure on Bitcoin from now, basically from now on, in my opinion. And, to somebody earlier said, who was it? Cleanspark to 100, we're Fidelity and BlackRock have $16-17 trillion under management. Just those two ETFs. So they have not even scratched the surface of getting their own clients to start to move into their ETF. So I think to say that we're early on this is an understatement. 99, I think we're going to see big numbers in the ETFs. I think it came out of the gates as the second largest, all of them put together. I think excluding Grayscale, the rest of them put together are already the second largest ETF for any commodity. Second, of course, to gold. Gold, I think, all in is about $100 billion ETFs. So there's a long way to go to catch gold. But I do think that by the end of 2025, I think that the Bitcoin ETFs will have passed gold. And I don't even think it'll be close. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to pass gold in market cap in that time frame. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a lot we've only not even gotten started, in my opinion, on the ETFs. So huge catalysts ahead, but they did throw some other catalysts at us that are super short term that I thought were going to spook the market a lot more than they did. And, to some extent, I guess it was a fake out. We've had, with the Grayscale ETF selling pressure that's been, everybody's obsessing over that. On top of that, it came out, some Mount Gox talk came out this week, and everybody freaked out about that. And now some Silk Road stuff came out. And we'll go through those in a little more detail, but those are all things that are some potential selling pressure. I think those are small things, but people were it seemed like people were panicking, and to that extent, people were panicking, because I will tell you, if we go to the fear and greed index, which we don't talk so much about anymore because we kind of moved out of this area, but we're back into we're under 50. So we're not in fear yet. I think we did get to 46 a few days ago. 2 days this week, we were under 50 on the fear and greed index. It's been months and months and months. If I go down to this chart and look, this is the 1 year. You got to go back to The last time we were at under 50 was the middle of October of 2023, which was before the gigantic run up that we've had in Bitcoin. So, the fear and greed index is a little bit resetting itself, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing. Now, obviously, we don't want to see it. And I don't think we're in the part of the cycle where this resets itself all the way down to fear or extreme fear. I think bouncing off of neutral is what I think is the likely scenario. And this gives us some room to head back up to the upside. And by the time we're, in the peak of the bull market, we can spend extended periods of time in greed and extreme greed. So, this is a lot of things are setting up nicely, but there has been a lot of what seemed like big amounts of FUD coming out that they've been throwing at Bitcoin, trying to scare people away. And as much as they can try, it doesn't seem to be working. If you go to the 1 day, we had, for me, this day right here was Monday. So, now Friday, we've gotten all of this back and then some. On Monday, we've been looking at this light blue line at about 41,200 and change. This line held up, through all of it. This was from December 11th, and really you can go back to December 4th. We did not have a daily candle close below this line. We had it test right here on January 18th. We were in $50, $60, but we closed above. And then when it broke below, it broke big time. And a lot of times, and then we kind of got some confirmation. There were 3 days in a row where it stayed down here. So that's just why I was a little bit surprised. We just ran back above this line. And to me, if we can do this is the 1 day. And so, we're almost certainly going to close a daily candle above this line. So that's why I think this weekend is going to be important, because I'm just going to quickly go to the 1 week, right? I mean, if we close above this line, then despite that breakout to the downside on the daily, we will have opened and closed above this line on the weekly. In which case, then, if that happens, then this was really a fake out to the downside, in my opinion. Let's see what the poll. George, I think this is the poll you got going, right?
Next move for Bitcoin, back to 40, up to 45, down to 38, or to the moon.
So overwhelmingly, we've got positive response here. Up to 45, so up 58%. Back to 40, which is, a very small move. You could almost call that sideways. 20%. Down to 38, just ticked to 15%. So only about 15%, and then 7% to the moon. So, 85% of the people that have voted, if you have not voted, it's free to vote. So feel free, please vote. And for those of you who just joined us, if you would be so kind as to please smash the like button. It helps the stream out in real time, so it is much appreciated. We're at 127 likes. We're going for a total of 500 likes, so help us. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. If you are interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, this is 90-something% of our content on this channel, so
we need to talk about Tesla, Tom.
We will talk about Tesla today. That's a part of that's a small...
Promise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and yeah, you want to talk about it right now?
No, I'm just asking if you want to talk about Tesla. I'm almost putting it in a buy category now, Tom, by the way.
I didn't buy it yet, but I'm on the same page as you, George, and I will tell you,
it's funny.
I have a price target that I will buy it at if it gets there. And I think there's more room to the downside, but that's how I try to set my price target. So, maybe I can just go through my thought process to let you guys know, like, how I try to buy things. And I will tell you, the way that I do it, I miss probably at least 8 out of 10 opportunities, because things don't often get to my price target, but if they don't, then there's always the next thing. So I'm looking for some more of a pullback. Let's just talk about Tesla for just a minute. We'll take a little minute of a sidetrack. So we ended up on gold. Let's see. Actually, we should go to the chart, not this. So Tesla was up a little bit today, but let's go to the chart. That's really a better way to look at this. So one of the things I'm looking at is Tesla's market cap is now $582 billion. If it could get, 500 or under 500, to me, that gives, and I'm not invested in Tesla. I've actually never been a Tesla investor. I think, it's on everybody's radar, whether it's on your watch list or not. This is probably one of the most popular retail trading stocks ever in the history of the stock market. In fact, if we go look every single day, if you go by dollar amount. So today, Tesla, in the number of shares traded, Tesla was third. By the way, Marathon was fourth, and that's low for Marathon. Marathon's has been in the top three almost every single day for months now, as far as the number of shares traded. So the volume, this is the trading volume. But if you go by trading dollars, Tesla's the number one traded stock in the market every single day. There's probably been a few days where Nvidia announced earnings that they jumped ahead of it.
Marathon.
Yeah, Marathon from a volume standpoint, Marathon's jumped ahead of it from time to time. And Nvidia has probably had their days, but Tesla's either number one or two so it's a very, very, very popular stock, I guess is my point. It's on everybody's radar. I have never owned this stock. My opinion on this company has changed a lot over the years, and I would love to open a position in this and hold it for the next couple of years. But if it doesn't get down to under 170, I'm hoping to try to get in at 165, and then really I'm hoping that it pulls back a little bit from there and I get to do some more dollar cost averaging in, because I do think, based on what their earnings call was and what they reported, it seems like this stock could be suppressed for 2024 is not going to be their best year. It's still going to be a great year by a lot of measures, but they've got their new model they hope coming out late 2025. That's going to be a game changer. It's a different price point. That's going to be a big deal. They've still got the Cybertruck coming out. That's going to be a big deal. Setting aside any of the other things that people love about Tesla, the AI, robot, automatic driving, there's a lot of good things that I think I would love to get into this. I do think this is a stock that could pull, if that market cap could get under 500 billion, then getting back to 1.5 billion would be a triple. And I do think this is a company that could get back to a $1.5 billion market cap. And if I had to hold it for 2 or 3 years or whatever the case is, right, I try not to get skewed. With the Bitcoin miners, we're always looking for 3Xs, 5Xs, 10Xs, 20Xs. Like, you don't get that in most of the rest of the market. If you can find a stock like Tesla where you think it's a little oversold and, over the course of 2 or 3 years, you could double or triple, that's an outstanding investment, as a general rule. So that's what I'm looking for on Tesla. But let's go to the chart. What are you thinking, Jordan? Let me pull up Tesla on the chart, because they got beat up. They had a very, very bad day after earnings, which I think was yesterday, right?
Yeah. No, it might have been Wednesday.
Oh, it could have been Wednesday.
Thursday. It might have been it. It's funny because when you trade Bitcoin, it just seems like.
Oh, I think it was. I think you're right. It was Wednesday after hours. So yesterday was the big down day. So yeah, I mean, look at the gap down on this. It hasn't been here in a long time. By a long time, I only mean May of 2023. So if you look, we'll get rid of, I don't know what that was or what that was. But I mean, this stock got down to 152 in April. So to me, this is a line somewhere in this area where this could get. And you can see we even looked at a brief period of time. This ran all the way down to, like 100 in January of 2023. So that's 1 year ago. This was $100 stock. Now, it didn't spend long there. This was a gigantic buying opportunity, right? It ran from 100 to 300 in 6 months. So I don't think it's going to run that fast again this time. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going to get down to 100, and I don't think it's going to get back to 300 this quickly. But I do think there's, somewhere in here, I do think there's some buying opportunity. And if it does what I want it to do, I'll get in. That's my thoughts. What are you thinking, George?
I'm thinking I'm doing the poll, man. I got a lot going on. I'm a little nervous.
This is your stock. This is your request.
I think Tesla is way undervalued right now.
You think it's way undervalued right now?
Yes, right now. But there's two problems I see with Tesla. Their taxi service. Do you remember this whole thing about their taxi? Where am I? Do you remember the whole thing about their taxi service?
Yep.
They're getting crushed on their taxi service.
But I've never, to me, there's a few things they talk about that have never been, for me, a part of my investment thesis in this company. And I know for other people, it's the main part of their investment thesis. So, I'm in the rare minority that actually think Tesla is a car company, an automobile manufacturer.
Hang on, I did a stupid poll. See, you got me all frustrated, so I did a dumb poll. It's easy to do. I'm going to ask, is the market at the top? And I put, is the market at the...
I see somebody, King Hazy. Sorry guys, I have a very hard time keeping up with the chat, so George helps with that. But every once in a while, one catches my eye, and somebody asked, Tom, do you think PayPal is oversold yet? And my answer to that is, I have been building out a position in PayPal for a while now. So I do think it has been ridiculously oversold. It just ran up to 68, within the last week, and then kind of ran back down. Dollar cost averaged again. So again, I got to say, this is not financial advice. Sometimes I tell you guys what I'm doing on a stock or what my thoughts are, but please always do your own due diligence. Obviously, Tesla and PayPal are not the volatile stocks that the Bitcoin miners are. But having said that, if you look at the moves that these stocks make, PayPal actually, PayPal was a $300 stock not so long ago, and it got down to a $50 stock. So if you look at the fundamentals in that company, I will be holding PayPal, my guess is, for a long time. But that's another one that even conservatively, I'm expecting to triple my money. If it takes 3 years, I don't care. In the same vein that, on a high quality company like that, to get, a triple return on your investment in a 2, 3, 4 year window of time is a spectacular result. So I feel like that's coming. Their PE is ridiculously low. The big money's going to flip a switch. I don't know when, and I'll just wait for it. And for as long as they keep giving it to me, at these prices, those are my thoughts on PayPal. That is a stock that I've been building a position on for a while.
Well, I think it really has to do with what the government's going to do here with their EV push. That's the thing I'm waiting for. I would imagine they're going to come out and say something about how they're going to be pushing
For
EVs.
Tesla.
Yeah, for Tesla. And Tesla's the only EV company out there. Did you hear about Ford just cutting their production of their EV F-150 trucks in half because people found out if you put any weight in them, they didn't work?
So for those of you that don't know, George is emphasizing that because he's been talking about the weight issue for these EVs for years. And there's a lot of companies that really never even got their I don't want to say their prototype, their, they never got their vehicles to market because of this issue. Some of the smaller EV companies, some of them are already gone now. So, and some of the other ones are struggling. And, to some extent, I agree with you, George. This is the EV company.
Yeah, that's the only one that matters.
Right. It's a pure play. And people are disappointed. They delivered almost 2 million cars last year. That's a place that I'm impressed. I was a doubter. 5 years ago, I was still in the, I will admit it, I was a doubter on this company, but
What, on Tesla?
yeah, but
Yeah.
they have performed. That's
Well,
the
it's just
bottom line.
amazing. Here's what it is. And hey, I'm speaking to myself when I say this. Okay? So everybody's going to hate me as I say this. And I don't care. I'm used to it. Hate me. But we're so vain, we like to think that we're doing something to help the environment. And this whole Tesla thing, that's their whole Tesla idea. We're saving the environment. But there's no way. Here's a great example. I don't know if you guys know this, but we are an approved Tesla authorized electronic installer electric company. We can install the damn things. And somebody just quoted me. I had to quote a price to install one. Guess how much it is?
A charging
Yeah, one of the
station.
supercharger. Yeah, one. So everybody wants to bring a supercharger into their house so that they can charge their car faster because 220 or excuse me, a 480. If it's a 480 or a 220, if it's 480, we got to bring additional service in. If it's 220, then we can use what's coming into the house. But if it's a 480, which there are people that want the super fast charging, and then you got to bring a whole new service line into the house, which is just don't even get me going. So if we just do a 220 line, guess how much it's just $2,500.
Yeah. Well,
And it's
by
just I just don't see it as this whole thing is proper, or I think just no one's thought about all the thought process of our electric and our consumption. If anything, I think our electric should be using for mining Bitcoin. Sorry. Oops. Sorry.
well, that brings me to a what was it? Needham conference. I finally got around to listening to Matt from CleanSpark give his presentation. And to your point, George, he went through just how valuable is Bitcoin mining is to our electrical grid. I if you're a CleanSpark investor, if CleanSpark's on your watch list, I recommend there's a link on their website in their investor relations area. I recommend listening to that. If it's only 30 minutes long, I listen to it on 2x, just I try to listen to everything on 1.5x. And by the way, if you're watching my videos, try bumping it up to 1.25 or 1.5. You'll still get it. In my opinion, that's what I usually do with a lot of. Anyway, that's your own personal choice. Some people say I talk too fast already, but I don't think so. When I watch my own videos, I feel like I'm talking at a snail's pace, and I want so. Anyway, I digress. I thought Matt gave a phenomenal presentation. And another thing he talked about, George, that you know about, and George walked one of their plants and has seen what it's done in Georgia for some of these towns. The sales tax that they're paying for some of these
Oh
small
yeah.
towns, it's changing it's changing these communities. So
And you know what? But here's the problem: is they spend the money and they don't reduce the taxes. The prime example is that it wasn't. Where are they in Sanderville?
yep,
I think it was Sanderville, but they were talking about how much money that they have incoming. It's just like, are you guys kidding me? What, you could just change the whole world based on your taxes? And no, they're not doing that. People don't know this, or maybe they do know this, and we just don't talk about it. But in Alaska, the residents actually get a check for taxes every year because of the way that they have their the land set aside for oil. Did you know that, Tom?
no, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, you know, I don't know if Eskimo is okay to call them. I
I
don't know
did
if
not
that's an
know that.
improper term or not, but they get a check for mining
That's an
the
Alaskan.
Alaskan oil. Yeah. I'm trying to find 4 companies to put up for the what is the undervalued right now best return on your investment if you're to buy
A
a
Bitcoin
Bitcoin
miner.
miner. I have CleanSpark, Marathon, and Bitfarms. Do you have anybody else that you would like?
Let's see if anybody wants to drop some names in the chat, or you have
Yeah,
CleanSpark,
just
Marathon,
and
and
Bitfarms.
Bitfarms. Uh,
I don't know who the 4th should be.
I mean, there's a lot of candidates. It would be
I
interesting
know
to
the
me. I want to put one on there and see what happens. Can you put Iris Energy on that?
I was gonna do Iris. I was actually thinking Iris. I
That
mean, you could actually do. I'm gonna do another one after this,
well, let's
and
do
then I'll
let's
do a runoff.
That's a great idea. We did that one other time and that worked great. So top 2 finishers from each, we'll do a runoff and see what everybody that gives some more miners a chance. I see some people in the comments saying Marathon, Hut, any Iris, a couple of Irises, a Riot. So we'll
Yeah,
get all those.
Riot's. I can't do Riot. I'm pissed at Riot.
Yeah, but they got to be in the they got to be in the next
No,
group.
they don't. I get to do the poll. I'm not putting them in.
You got to give the people what they want.
I will put them in the next poll.
I see some ciphers,
I'm
cipher.
doing Riot, Cipher.
Oh,
Okay, I'm
let's
gonna
not
let this one
forget
go.
core.
Yeah, Core.
So I will tell you, and I'm not going to go too deep into core because they made things so unbelievably confusing that it was frustrating to me. But it did. Let me see if I got this article. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Core Scientific did come out of Chapter 11, so they are now relisted on the Nasdaq under their old ticker CORZ. They were CORZQ. You could trade them, not on the Nasdaq prior to that. So they relisted, and they were calling it a 1 to 10 reverse stocks. Well, they weren't calling it that. They were saying, that's in their presentation. They talked about that, that's what it was going to emulate. But in the reality, you got stock, you got warrants. It was a very complicated equation. I watched closely that day. I went to several boards where, StockTwits and Reddit and those kind of places. Even most of the people that owned shares, some people were big shareholders. They were totally baffled all day long the day that this happened. So, from what I can tell, at the end of the day, and some of this is going to play out over time, but just from the pure value of the stock plus the warrants, despite the fact that this says, so it showed a big down day on the opening day. Core Scientific stock down 30% after bankruptcy relisting. So it looks like they say Core Scientific shares plunged 30%. But it looks to me, and let me know if anybody owns this, if this is how this played out for you. I don't own this company. It looked to me like you were actually at least even on the end of the first day, maybe even a little bit up when you considered the warrants. So I think this worked out for shareholders so far. And if that's true, and then if we go, let's pull up their chart. Yeah, see, this is a funky chart because it's only been trading for 3 days. So even though this is the same ticker, the old stock is not the new stock. So you can see this looks like it's a disaster, but I actually don't think it was. So, if anybody is in this, let me know if it worked out the way that I calculated it, which is I think you actually ended up maybe even net. I think you ended up a little bit ahead at the end of the day here. So, and now obviously, if you want to invest now, you don't have to go through all these warrants and all that stuff. You can buy in, fresh with just the stock. I'm not
Dude,
doing that. I stayed away. Sorry, go ahead, George.
no, I was just gonna say, how come Bitfarms doesn't really move? I mean, it was a great day today. Don't get me wrong. I did really well with it today, but it just doesn't seem like there's like the activity.
Well, look at the Bitfarms chart. Bitfarms did do a little, it had all the stocks had their pullback. It has not performed really outside of the standard of all the other stocks, over the last 3 or 4 weeks. They all pulled back a lot. And today was a nice day, but it's some of these stocks have been boring. But this week, let's go to Bitfarms next. So somebody was asking me, Tom, have you recovered from the Bills loss yet? Oh, thanks, Crypto Rich. No, I haven't. I've I'm
They're dead to me.
once again totally dejected. This is a team that was built to win the Super Bowl. I think this was their last chance this year. They're going to have to tear the team apart, in my opinion, next year. So that's all I have to say about that. We'll see. Maybe Josh
We
Allen.
might want to do a channel on the NFL because there's so much going on with the NFL. I don't think people even realize what's going on with the NFL.
That's its own. You're right. That would be.
Yeah.
We could go. There's.
But it probably wouldn't be the type of channel people would like. I don't know. Maybe they would watch because it would be it wouldn't be like the standard. Like the NFL has done things to destroy themselves even more in the last 2 weeks than before. Sorry.
Well, they made a big recovery, and now it seems like. Well, for me, the whole NFL's gone because my team is out.
I want to do this. I can't do this poll. I want to know who thinks the NFL is fixed. I think it's fixed.
I don't think it's fixed. I just think the
Yeah.
Bills lose. That's what I think.
Fix. I think we're better off having in the stands voting on a penalty, and that would favor the home teams. I think that'd be good.
This is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll leave it alone. Crypto Rich said, "Fire Sean McDermott."
Yes.
I'm in a group text with a bunch of Bills fans, and the only thing they all talked all day today, and the only thing I did was hashtag fire Sean McDermott. That was my only comment. I usually stay out of these group texts. They make me crazy, but so I agree. But we won't suck everybody into our.
Tom, somebody asked about an interview you were supposed to do this week. What happened?
So we're not going to talk to Sue this month. We were going to do an interview with Hut 8, and I'll go to the press release they put out, but we kind of did some back and forth. They put out a press release. A few different things happened, and I'm just going to wait. Here's what I'm going to wait for. And this is what I talked to Sue about. When they have something meaningful to say, then I think it's worth having her back on the channel and having a conversation about it. But a couple of things happened. They put out a press release that basically told me that they're not going to address this. I'll go to the press release. It's very short, but since, we were talking about doing this interview and I've pushed it off, but I'll tell you why. So they basically said, Hut 8 today issued the following statement regarding a report from an activist short selling firm containing false and misleading characterizations about Hut 8's business. Hut 8 has assessed the claims set forth by the authors of the report and believes that the report is filled with inaccuracies, misrepresented data, speculative claims, and unfounded character attacks. The report appears to represent a deliberate attempt to spread misinformation about Hut 8, its operations, finances, management practices, and key executives. So it goes on that way, and I feel like this is all they have to say about that. And I'll tell you, the night before, I went and prepped. This same company had put out a short report on Marathon just less than a year ago. So I wanted to go through a part of my preparation and see, what did Marathon, what was their response? What did they do about it? And Marathon's response was to not put out a response at all. They put no press release, no interviews, nothing. They just simply ignored it. And reading this, I get the impression that Hut 8 is doing the same thing. I understand. We can do a poll and see if you guys, I think it's a fair poll. Do you think that's a good strategy, or does it feel to you that they're ducking this and,
You know what? I think what is really good about that report was one thing, is it made you really look at HUD 8 and realize there's some big question marks related to HUD 8.
I'm waiting. I've always said, I'm waiting for, and that's why I would rather have, let's see what their next move is. I'm waiting to see them buy Bitcoin mining equipment because, with everything that they just did with this merger and all the things surrounding it and the Validus deal and, you know, the only way all this makes sense is if I get an announcement, between now and the halving that they're, buying a bunch of Bitcoin mining machine and they let us know, what's next. This has to be a part of a bigger plan. So until I know the rest of that, you're right, George. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
$1 million question. So the other thing, so Barry Curran said, treat her mean, Tom. So that was one of the other reasons. I just felt like I didn't want to get into the middle of this because the amount of comments that I was getting on the channel, like, you need to destroy her, et cetera, et cetera. And for those of you who know me, like, I'm not afraid to ask all the questions, but I'm going to be reasonable and I can't dictate what the answers are. So I just felt like personally at this time with this amount of information out, this was just going to be a lose-lose scenario for everybody. So I'd rather wait and talk about what's actually happening than all of this stuff. So, you can feel however you want about that, but that's what I decided. So I see Kay said, Tom, don't waste time talking for no reason.
Hey, I'll
So
tell you what,
yeah,
everybody
on
was
HUT, I agree.
picking on me on Tuesday too, by the way. Like you like the pain, remember? When I was buying HUT on stream on
Oh yeah,
Tuesday? They're like, "Oh, you like the pain, you like the pain." Dude, when news like that comes out, let's be honest. Let's be honest. You know it's going to bounce back.
that was my strong sense. I only dollar cost averaged into a few things this week, and that was one of them. For that reason, I just, that was these knee jerk overreactions, and we talked about this at painstaking detail on the members only live stream, and you know that was one of my points, and George, obviously feels the same way because I think you profited on it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm out though, just so you know.
right, you got in. There was a big bounce, and that's
Get in,
fine. If
get out.
hey, listen, when opportunities present themselves, these are some of the ways to while you're waiting. I'm more of a buy and hold person, so I hold things for a long time. But if opportunity knocks, you know, that's less of a underlying. I think the fundamentals are great, and it's more of a hey, the market just panic sold this thing off, so there's probably going to be a little bit of a rebound, and that's exactly how it played out. So it was extremely predictable, and so congratulations to George and anybody else that may have
Well,
made some money on that
that
play.
that trade was was the best trade. It was I think about like the people like Sue and those. That was like the perfect trade. You get in, you get out. It's got a little analogy that I can't be any clearer than that though. Get in, get out.
I'm, I'm so
I lost
busy I
you.
can't hear what you're saying right now.
That's good. That's good. I forgot Bitfarms. Yes, I guess I did. I'm
No,
sorry.
Bitfarms was in the first poll.
Oh, it was in the first poll. Okay,
So
you
the
said I
results of the
forgot it.
first poll: Cleanspark in a narrow victory, 36%. Marathon 34%. So those two will move on to the finals. Bitfarm got 19%, and Iris Energy got 8%. So I was interested to see. I don't know if that's a reflection on just the fact that we get a lot less information. They're a lot newer. In some ways, and I'm not in Iris Energy right now, but I've been eyeballing them, and I did think we were going to get a little bit more of a pullback, and there was a number I was going to buy them at as well. They're
Oh,
what?
Hive. We need to talk about Hive too, and no one even brought up Hive. Isn't that sad? Wow.
Oh, you gave any slash midgy
Yeah, because
Mawson.
no. Yeah,
Tho-
I just figured
Those two
I
put
put us.
together.
Yeah,
Hey,
they're only
listen,
getting.
they stand a shot at not coming. Oh, they're catching up. They might not finish in last. So this is Core, Wolf, Bit Digital, Any, Mawson. Who are we missing? Aren't we missing somebody big? What about do we need to do a
Hive's
third?
pretty big.
Cipher.
Yeah, Hive,
Oh, you
Cipher.
did skip Riot. You're skipping two of the 3 or 4 biggest companies.
I don't like Riot. Riot's not acceptable.
Yeah, but the question is not what you like. The question is, what do
Okay,
the
we're
people
gonna have
like?
to do another poll and add these scumbag
There's enough left to do another one,
non-preferred
so we might as well do another one.
non-preferred companies like Riot.
If you guys just got here, or if you have not yet, if you could please smash the like button or consider smashing the like button. It is free to you and it helps the channel out a lot in real time on the live stream. So also, if you're new here, we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time. Yes, we did get a little bit sidetracked today talking about Tesla. 90+% of our content, most days 99% of our content is Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners.
Well, I think it's right to talk about opportunities in the stock market. I don't think we should pigeon ourselves. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, when stuff happens, we should talk about it, right?
Yeah.
We're all investors. If you're here, you're either an investor or somebody interested in getting involved in investing. So,
Yeah.
while we focus on one industry, there's an awful lot going on out there. So, and it's not like
I made a good purchase just now too, by the way.
you just bought something now.
Wait, I bought it a little while ago. I know you don't. I'm beginning to like to only purchase it in after hours.
if you're, you've been doing some day trading.
I kind of like it. I need to pay for dinner, so that's what I do is get on here and trade some stocks so I can get some money for dinner.
Well, if it goes the right way.
Oh, it's already up $900, so I mean, I guess it's going the right way.
Well, get out, pay for dinner. That's a nice dinner. So, Old Jock is going to one of the points that I was looking at on Iris Energy. Although I will add, I think this is a little misleading. So, Old Jock said, Tom, look at Iris's market cap. It's less than 1/5 of CleanSpark's. But what I do, so I want to look at that. And it's one of the reasons I'm interested in Iris Energy. If you look at their market cap right now, it's showing 286,000 on Yahoo. I think if you jump around the internet, you'll see that similar number. But one of the problems is it is more than this because we know they bought and paid for 4.4 exahash worth of machines. And I think the infrastructure to install them, they have a $500 million at the market offering. So they have dug into that. I don't know how much, right? Is there another 100 or 200 million in market cap we don't know about? But my point would be, let's even say there is another $150 million in market cap on top of that. I still think that makes them very competitively priced. I think this is this company's at the top of my watch list as far as Bitcoin miners that I don't currently own. So, and it's for that reason. I think even if you adjust for the shares they've probably issued that aren't being counted when you look at these sites, they're still much less. I mean, if you go to Bitfarms, and then I'm going to talk about some news on, it took me there anyway. So Bitfarms is at $750 million, right? So it's a big difference. And then if you go to CleanSpark, and remember, all these just had a huge pullback that they haven't recovered. CleanSpark's at a $1.5 billion, but CleanSpark now is days away from putting 6 exahash online. So that's going to get them from 10 to 16 exahash, and they're planning on doubling that again in 2024. So,
Tom, what is HUT at right now? Not what are they managing, but what are they at? What are they?
Oh, their exahash is I think 7.2 or 7.3 of of exahash that they're mining
So
with. And they
what in
mined
the world is
450 Bitcoin. I
so
think 453 Bitcoin in December. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, if anybody sees that.
so
It's something like that.
hang on, let me find Big Susie. Tell me what this means. Oh, they're at 7.5 mining. 7.5.
All right. Yeah, they had reported 7.2, I think, or 7.3 in their monthly operational update. Maybe
Oh,
they've updated it since then.
Manage. Okay. So how does HUT become the same valuation as CleanSpark?
Well, they're not even near the same valuation. So
Weren't
CleanSpark is
they kind of close
1.5.
during the HUD? I mean, during the merger, weren't they kind of close?
No, they were both much bigger than this. HUT is about 50% of the market cap of CleanSpark.
Okay.
And that's where they've been. They're both down big time. They might have been a little bit more than that, but they were never in CleanSpark's league. But this does put them on par with Bitfarms. And I just want to go to this press release because, Bitfarms had, I thought, a gigantic press release this week. So to your point, let's look at the chart. Well, let's look at the press release first. Bitfarms purchases land in Paraguay, blank city in Paraguay that I cannot pronounce, so I won't butcher it, in support of transformative fleet upgrade and 2024 target of 21 exahash. So they are building out. Remember, they're at, I'm not going to guess. I'm going to go look. So Bitfarms was at 6.5 exahash as of their December operational update that they put out in January. So they're going to get from, the first thing they're going to do is going to get from 6.5 to 12. In doing so, they're going to swap out the majority of their machines. On top of that, they're then going to get to 17 exahash, and then they had talked about options to get to 21 exahash. So if you go to this new press release, this is a little bit more definitive. We look forward to starting construction on the on the Y farm and anticipated completing the facility's build out in the second half of 2024. In conjunction with our miner redeployment strategy, the project will be designed to help provide sufficient infrastructure to achieve a corporate hash rate of 21 exahash by year end 2024, should we exercise our recently announced miner purchase order options for additional Bitmain T21 miners. So they have a clear path to 21 exahash by the end of 2024. This is why I think there's a lot more room to the upside for Bitfarms. This puts them, this is a top tier Bitcoin mining company. And there was a lot of question for probably a year plus as to whether or not these guys were going to be able to turn the bend and get past some of the financial woes they had going into and through the crypto winter. But they've drastically turned this around. I think this is a company that's management has performed phenomenally, both shoring up their balance sheet and from an operational standpoint. These guys, I think, perform at a very, very high level, in my opinion. This, I thought, was a big press release. It went somewhat unnoticed because there's so much noise going on with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners, the ETFs, all the other, Mount Gox and Silk Road and Grayscale, So with all that, I feel like this got lost in the haze, and they did not get any bump from this at all. But let's go to the chart because one of the things, and I got lines all over this, and now I got a new one that I don't want at all. So ignore, let's get rid of these lines. This is January. So this green line right here, this is the day Bitcoin tanked under their line of support. So if I go back, I'm just going to go back here. Right, we had been holding this line of support for quite some time. And you'll see on Monday the 22nd, this line of support failed and we moved down, pretty decently and stayed down for days. But most of the Bitcoin miners look very much like Bitfarms, where this is on that same day of that giant red candle, you'll see Bitfarms had a green candle and then sideways for 3 days. So that last move down that Bitcoin took, the Bitcoin miners held strong. They didn't take that move down with them. And that is starting to make up for the fact that these miners got massively oversold. Remember, we talked about from December 27th, and all these charts are the same. They peaked on December 27th. From the top to the bottom, this is 46%. This is actually one of the best performing Bitcoin miners in this very short period of time from, December 27th to January 19th. Most of the Bitcoin miners were down more than 50%. Some were down 60%, but they all look basically like this. But then as Bitcoin took that last leg down, the Bitcoin miners started to consolidate and go sideways. So I think this is very encouraging. And yes, everything took a big move up today because Bitcoin took a gigantic move to the, Bitcoin was up 5% back into its trading range. So I'm encouraged. I don't know, and that doesn't mean I know what's next, because I still will tell you, I don't know what next week holds. This has been a wild ride. They're just throwing stuff at the wall. They're trying to scare people. And I'll go back for those of you who weren't here. It's working. Fear and greed is at 49. It's been since October since we were, below 50 on the fear and greed index, the crypto fear and greed index. So they have put some fear into people. At the same time, I think we're seeing a bottoming process for the Bitcoin miners. If they go lower, then they go lower. But I do think we're bottoming out, and I still remain, super bullish on 2024. My opinion, not financial advice.
Wow, I'm listening. I'm reading in the chat about some people are really crazy positive about CleanSpark. And because of their...
Oh, did we get to the finals already?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a runaway.
It's a runaway. But Riot, I put Riot right to the end, and look what they got, 9%.
So, yep, you were right. Nobody... And
they would have never even have made it if I didn't put them any... They would have...
That's true. Did TerraWolf get a free ride, or did they win their group?
They kind of got a free ride. I'm in shock, though. Can people tell me why they like Riot and Wolf, please? Why they feel they're a better investment than CleanSpark or even Marathon? I just like to understand how people think. Not that it's nothing wrong. Your opinions are your opinions. My opinions are my opinion. None of this is financial advice. Tom's giving you his opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. And we like to hear your opinion too. Because what I find is there's opinions out there that I didn't even know of. And like people will say something about this and I didn't even know that, and then make me reconsider a company. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I know you're very active in our members only Discord, and I know there's a lot of information provided in there. So I know you enjoy that part of it, and we have
sometimes.
Well, sometimes we get the conversation gets heated, but
we gotta talk each other off the ledge. I'm gonna jump. This is it. Those bastards did to me again. They took my money.
We have a fantastic group, so thank you, everybody. Thanks to all of the members. I see a lot of you guys in the chat, so special thanks to all of our members. Much appreciated for supporting the channel and for all of the quality conversation that you guys provide.
Yeah, Tom, what are your top 3? Since you didn't get the vote, what are your top 3 miners in your mind?
Oh, you're not going to like it.
I don't mind it.
Well,
You're still sticking with Riot, huh?
I will tell you, my top 3 positions are CleanSpark, Riot, and Bitfarms. Not in that order. So yeah, I think Riot's way undervalued. I know that they operationally, here's why I could be wrong. if we get to the, if we get to the middle of 2024 and they've gone through the winter and they, especially in these months coming up to the halving, if they don't increase their operational efficiency, then I'm going to start to have to decide, is this going to be the norm for them? They are just as a function of dividing the amount of Bitcoin they mine by the amount of exahash they have. And I'm talking about in November and December after, the curtailment, energy credits that they got. So, in the summer, it wasn't apples to apples. They were minting money on energy credits and it reduced the amount of Bitcoin that they mined. So that number wasn't fair. But if you look at November and December, they were pretty much in last place as far as efficiency, just the calculation of, number of Bitcoin mined per exahash. So, and it wasn't a close last place. Like most of the rest of the bunch were in a pretty tight group, and Riot lagged behind. So that I think is a big issue. I do have one or two other issues with them. But on the flip side, from an infrastructure standpoint, it's not even close. Their infrastructure is so much larger than the second biggest company. They are by far from an infrastructure standpoint the biggest company of all the Bitcoin miners by a mile. Now, they don't have the most exahash up and running by any means, and they won't, even if they execute their plans. Now, they did put out a pie in the sky press release. I'm calling it pie in the sky. They have an option to buy themselves all the way up to 100 exahash by the end of 2025. I just don't see any scenario where that happens. That's my personal opinion. I'm not making an investment thesis based on Riot getting to 100 exahash. But I do think they're in a group of Bitcoin miners that are eyeballing, this 38 to 50 exahash range. So I think that's going to be your elite top three by, the end of Q1 2025. And I think Riot's going to be in that group. So that's what I'm expecting. If I'm wrong, it won't be the first time, and it won't be the last time.
Well, I just think there's not been enough noise about it at all. But speaking of that, since there's been a lot of noise about Core Scientific, can you tell me what you think they should be at? I mean, they're valued at 1.336 billion now. Does all that information not out yet to figure out what they should be doing?
For me, I need the dust to settle. I need to see what Bitcoin does, what their stock price does, how many of their warrants, get exercised, how much, do they end up paying off? Their plan here is, they went into Chapter 11 with $1 billion of debt. So obviously, even to the scale that they were at, that was, and it wasn't marathon type debt, convertible debt, no principal due, 1% interest. Marathon has a very different, they have, and they got rid of a lot of their debt. But even the debt they had, even when it was 700 million, was not of a concern to me because it was, their interest was, 10% of Core Scientific's interest or less. So, Core Scientific, that's the reason they went into Chapter 11. Their interest expense and debt service was just from a cash flow standpoint, they were out of money. So, but they were, in other ways, they had a lot of valuable assets. And so they did reorganize. They've come out of Chapter 11. And I believe they've come out with 600 million in debt versus the billion in debt that they had. It's restructured. And in addition to that, with the warrants, if all the warrants are exercised, their plan is that they can pay all of their debt off. So for me, there's so much going on there. It's such a moving target. I think if I had to guess, I think it'll all work out for them in a good way, and it may work out for investors, but I have so many other companies that have less variables than that I think are actually, have better business models, much stronger balance sheets, right? It's nice that they've cleaned up their balance sheet and it's not a disaster, but on the flip side, Marathon's got $1 billion of liquidity. Riot's got $900 million of liquidity. So, there's, to me, it's just not one. It's not one I'm likely to ever invest in. But again, that's my opinion. They may be one as a company. I think they're going to thrive. They'll be a top 5 Bitcoin mining company, in my opinion, by the end of 2024 and by the end of 2025. That's my opinion. Crypto Fever has been a member for 10 months. Thank you very much. And Crypto Fever said, George and members voice conference. If yes, what time? Same way we did it.
I said for 11.
Last Saturday.
11. And then I needed. So, speaking of which, Tom, I've reallocated my troops, and I had to get out of Riot because Riot just was not doing it for me. They just. But the one I'm still stuck in is Hive. What do you think about Hive?
Well, I recommend you watch my members only deep dive on Hive.
Okay.
And
we don't do this ahead of time, guys. This is all by the moment.
For those of you who don't know, we do have a membership. It's only $5 a month. We appreciate all of you who are participating in that. It does help keep the channel going. And we have a lot of the smaller Bitcoin miners that we've done. We have a lot of videos that we make for members only. So there's a big pile of content there ready and waiting. If you're interested in that, you can join by hitting the join button on the YouTube page. It's through YouTube. But anyway, we have some of the smaller Bitcoin miners: Hive, Bit Digital, Cipher, Stronghold, BitDeer. We've done members only deep dives recently on those, and there's just not enough interest in the general investing community to put out a video. But for us, we're a Bitcoin mining channel, and we do a lot of other members only videos that are not Bitcoin miners, but we did do all those. And we also did a MicroStrategy video, which obviously is very Bitcoin adjacent. So all of those are ready and waiting for the members. So special thanks to the members. And if you're interested, feel free to join now or later. If not,
or now,
or now. And if not, please smash the like button. We're at 245 likes. Thank you very much, everybody. And it does help the stream in real time. So we appreciate you guys smashing the like button. And of course, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel if this is content that you're interested in. Yes, George's dogs are out.
I finally got my chair.
Danger said, Riot has no debt, which is true. I mean, these are some of the reasons, George asked earlier, why would you invest in Riot? These are some of the things I like about Riot. They have just under $1 billion in liquidity. They have zero debt. They have massive infrastructure. Now, I will tell you, I did do a deep dive video on Riot that's for the public. So anybody that's interested, I do have a list of things, that things I think they need to improve at and questions that I have for them. So, I think that, it's not, there's pros and cons, and I go through all of those in that video, but there's some big positives. If they can execution is a big piece of their puzzle. If they can improve on execution, then, I think they could have huge numbers ahead of them. Darren, thank you very much for the super chat. Darren is a member. Much appreciated. Darren said, yo, Tom, join the voice conference on members Discord tomorrow. Need to hear Tom unhinged. I think I was a half unhinged on the last members only live stream on Tuesday, but I'll be glad to join that.
Nice. Oh, wow. We get the VIP in.
All right.
I guess we're going to have to do noon.
Noon? Well, you call the time. You make it's your world, George.
I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. No, so your answer about core, you just would rather wait a little bit, kind of see what it's all about.
Yeah, there's too many question marks And, I just got through saying there's a few question marks with Riot, but on the flip side, there's some knowns that I think are A plus. And, when you break down, I'm a big, for those of you who don't know, my background's in accounting. I read the financial statements, I read the from soup to nuts. I read the 10Ks, the 10Qs, and so to some extent, and it's not the only thing that I base my investments on, but I am a numbers person, and I really look closely at the financial statements. And, you know, I would like to see what this thing looks like from a balance sheet and an income statement standpoint a month, a quarter into the new core scientific. So, we just don't have that information right now. And from what I do know, their balance sheet is not going to be, it will not be a top 5 balance sheet or top 5 or 6 or 7 or any of those, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, they have a massive amount of debt. It looks like they have a plan to pay that debt off. We'll see if that happens. I don't like debt. I think it's for there's plenty of industries that have debt. There's industries that have astronomical amounts of debt, but they cash flow, and that's a part of how their industry works. This is not one of those industries. Debt, I mean, the final verdict is in. For the Bitcoin mining industry, big amounts of debt are not a part of the success equation. And I don't see a world, I shouldn't say that. When Bitcoin's at 500,000 or a million, maybe there's a different world that we're looking at. But for now, and for the, indefinitely, to me, debt is worrisome. If they get rid of all their debt, and they very well might. We have a new member. Welcome. P.
I let
I'm
you
gonna
do
go.
that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say P. I got to try to pronounce it. He was nice enough to join. Welcome to the group. Putin. Oh boy, I can't even get to the end
This
of
is
that one.
Putin. I remember him.
Well, I appreciate it. Welcome. You are our newest member. Welcome to the Talkin Investing Squad. And check out, there's a bunch of content, a bunch of deep dives on a lot of these smaller miners that you might be interested in.
Who pays the least to produce one Bitcoin? Riot.
Right, that's another complicated question. If you just go look at their financial statements, the answer would be Riot. But it's a little more complicated than that, because that puts in their, and again, that's one of my top 3 plays, so I'm not knocking them. I think one of my concerns with them is, does this energy credits, do they continue at the same pace? The energy credits they got in 2023 were by far and away record setting. Now, it looks to me like that's how the Texas grid is set up, and that could be the new normal. But that is one of the reasons that they have the lowest price per Bitcoin. They still have a good price per Bitcoin, even not considering that. So, but there's a couple of other companies that have Cipher has a low cost per Bitcoin. And a lot of these companies, we're going to get a lot of big updates because everybody's getting the next round of latest and greatest machines. So that's going to change a lot of people's cost per coin. And then, of course, the halving is going to happen. So, that's going to have a significant impact on cost per coin. And then we're going to have to see how the fees are. If the fees have ticked up on a consistent basis. Sometimes they even pop up to much higher numbers. 20, 30, 40, 50% of the reward, on top of the reward that you get for mining Bitcoin is fees. But, it's even when it settles back down, it seems to be settling down to a higher place. That's going to be more important. The more halvings we go through, that will become increasingly important. And it seems like they're sustaining at a little bit higher level. So that's going to help a lot of these miners as well. And it will reduce the cost per coin because those fees are essentially gravy, right? When you mine a block, you get the block plus, whatever the fees are. So if they're 0, you get 0. If they're 4 Bitcoin, and there were plenty of blocks in the last few months that were 2, 3, 4 Bitcoin in fees. Now, that's not the average by any stretch of the imagination, but they have been growing. JD said the Georgia grid is greater than the Texas grid. Well, that is absolutely true. And CleanSpark, I think, is pretty dedicated to being, I don't know that they're going to be 100% in Georgia forever, but they're vast majority of what they do. And, and that's one of the things Mac talked about on the conference call that I mentioned earlier. They got towns welcoming them to, come to our town and do what you do and add to the tax revenue base, etc. So it's an interesting watch if you're interested in CleanSpark, if you're invested in it, or if you're thinking about it, if it's on your watch list. If you go to their investor page, the presentation that Matt just gave, I thought was interesting.
Huh. Okay, Tom.
Yes,
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Do you think we're gonna have an alt season, or do you think you don't even really care about the alt season? You're just all Bitcoin Maximus.
Even when it's altcoin season, and I'm a Bitcoin person. So George knows more about the rest of the crypto universe. And I know a lot of our members know a bunch about that as well. But I will tell you, even when it's altcoin season, one of the things that's important not to confuse, Bitcoin still, has huge bull runs. It's just that the altcoins, because they're so much smaller, they have a higher level of volatility. So, Bitcoin could be doubling or tripling or quadrupling, and it'll still be altcoin season because, when they're so much smaller and the drop off, we'll take a quick look. I mean, the drop off is, Bitcoin's at $821 billion market cap. Ethereum is in second by a mile and a distant second at 272 billion. And then, Tether does not count. That's a stable coin. So that's pegged to the dollar. You're not making or losing money. That's not an investment. It's a vehicle. That's closing in on $100 billion. Then you go down to Binance. So the third largest cryptocurrency is $45 billion. That's, Bitcoin's almost 20 times the size of the third largest. Solana is making a run at that at Binance. XRP has been hanging around in this spot for a long time now. Then you got Circle USDC here, which is also a stable coin. So, because there's two stable coins, eighth place is really sixth place. You're already down to $17 billion. By the time you get down to 10th place, you're at Dogecoin. I mean, right? And by the time you get down to, let's go to 30th. You're at 3 billion. And then as you go down this, here's where things can get explosive, right? If you get down to 50, 60, 70, these things can take off, right? And inevitably, some of them do. And then, you get further down. I won't even go. There's what the equivalents of penny stocks that can just have, 1,500% moves to the upside, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's part of what makes up alt season, but it's still a great time to be a Bitcoin investor. In fact, that's usually when Bitcoin's hitting its all-time high. I'm not even an Ethereum person. I have some issues with Ethereum. I don't think, and I think everybody's assumption that here's a poll you can do, George.
Okay.
It is now, and one of the things I've done this week is I've watched a lot more YouTube than I have over the last year. I've tried to find everybody that, and it's not everybody because obviously there's just endless supply of, YouTubers. But I've tried to find all the larger YouTubers that talk about Bitcoin and look and see what they're talking about and what they're telling people. By the way, I found a lot of them, but I may talk about one giant piece of misinformation, and it's not even an important thing. It just goes to the point that you really gotta vet information that you're hearing from anybody, myself included, before you make any investing decisions on it. Because I saw somebody, and it was an honest mistake, but it was a gigantic mistake. And then I saw a bunch of YouTubers pick up and run with that information. And so, here's this info that's spreading that was grossly incorrect. I'll get to that in a second. And I'm not calling anybody out by name because, trust me, I'm sure I make my share of mistakes. So this is not to be critical of others. It's just to point out, like, be careful of, what you're hearing, what people are telling you. And just because you heard the same thing 2 or 3 or 4 times, it may have all been from the same source. So, that's happening more and more frequently. And so because it was so obviously wrong, I went and did the legwork and found out what was really going on. But anyway, through all of that, one of the biggest things that seemed to be a common theme among almost every single person in the cryptocurrency world that has a big YouTube channel, which, doesn't really mean anything, I guess. They all felt like this Ethereum ETF was imminent. And so I'd like to know what you guys think about the BlackRock has submitted an application for an Ethereum ETF. So do we think that, I think May is the deadline. So most of the YouTubers I watched thought that this would be, and it just got pushed. The Fed just kicked the can down the road over the last few days. And the consensus seemed to be was that this was going to go through in May. And I'll let you guys answer first, and then I'll give you my obvious opinion.
When will we get an ETF? This. Do you want me just to put in when will we get
Are we going to get an Ethereum ETF in May of 2024? By the end of 2024? 2025, never. How about that? How do you feel about that one? Crypto Fever said ETH equals trash, in my opinion. I see some people asking for an interview with Jason from Riot, and that is on my list. I'm staring at my list. It's been on the top of my list. So, I'm not even going to promise it anymore. I'm just going to, you guys will see it when it happens. But it is my intention to talk to Jason. It's the request I get the most. So I think that's the one that people are most interested in. And it did win our poll as to who. Oh, actually, and Matt from CleanSpark.
Oh, Tom, I sent you something in Zoom. Want to pull that up? That's real interesting.
Absolutely.
This
moment.
That was from Matt Schultz. Somebody called Cantor. Did an all-in cost per coin analyst immediately post halving. It was real interesting.
I'll be interested to see this because some of these can be very, very misleading. We'll discuss.
Uh-oh, Tom, flooded basement, Allstate, nice. Tom is getting buried with work, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. Thing up. Give me a second. Pardon the interruption.
Are you looking at it? Are you reading it?
I'm trying to get it on the screen. I'm just slightly technologically impaired, but I'll get there.
Okay. It's a real interesting one, and if it's true, man, Huh, Sue? You got some explaining to do.
Oops, give me 30 more seconds. So while I talk about this, I'm gonna say that this should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna rip this to shreds, but I might rip it to shreds.
He's gonna rip it to shreds. Tell me why? You're gonna rip it to shreds.
Okay, so all right, so Cantor's, and this is Cantor Fitzgerald, so this is a prominent group. All-in cost per coin analysis immediately post halving. Below we have provide an all-in. Hold on, give me 1 second. My screens are messed up. Give me a moment. Okay, we're fixed. Below we provide an all-in cost per coin comparison for April 2024 immediately post halving. We assume there is no immediate change to operations or network hash rate. So, okay, I mean they have to make an assumption, so I don't mind those assumptions. If Bitcoin price does not rally significantly, many Bitcoin miners will not be able to mine profitably. Cantor's all-in cost per coin. So my first question is, when they say all-in cost per coin, a couple of things jump out. The equation that I've always done is you got to strip out everything non-cash, right? So technically an all-in cost per coin would be on a GAAP basis, which would include a massive amount of non-cash items. So, a company's ability to continue to go on is predicated on their ability to be positive cash flow and pay their bills and not run out of money and go out of business. So the first thing I can see by looking that this is including a lot of non-cash items. Also, I can see by looking that some of this is just because does not at all agree with the financial statements that I've looked at. So, not financial advice. You guys can vet this information for yourselves, but to me, this does not appear to be in line with what I've been looking at. And, I do all these numbers every quarter. The other thing is, a lot of the companies on this list will have switched out between switching out and retiring old machines and adding new, considerably more efficient machines. Their assumption doesn't make sense. Almost every company on this list has made major purchases of machines that are significantly more energy efficient. So I would guess that probably every single number on this chart doesn't make
wrong.
sense. And
Well, and then too, they probably use CleanSpark's latest 16 exahash. Is that what they're going to be?
this is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
no, I bet CleanSpark's about to add 6 exahash of the most efficient miners they have, and then they're going to add 4 more exahash of miners that are even more efficient than that, and then 12 more exahash of miners that are even more efficient than that. The other thing is, all of these companies have talked about the fact that CleanSpark in specific actually overclocked. They intentionally overclocked their machines all of December. So by overclocking your machine, you're increasing your cost, your energy cost. And they did so because, their theory is between now and the halving, even with an overclocked increased energy cost, that cost is going to be significantly less than what it will be post halving. So let's mine as many Bitcoin as we can. They're going to put them on their balance sheet, increase their HODL position. And then, all of these companies have talked about the fact that they have a lot of flexibility to overclock, underclock, be very reactive to the price of energy and cost of energy. So, I don't know what the answer to this is. I guess I shouldn't say every number on here is wrong. Although, if I did this, probably every number on my chart would be wrong too, but they'd all be less than these numbers. I don't know what their basis is for these numbers. I suspect there's some non-cash items in here because, for instance, Marathon, their direct cost per coin was not $25,000. So, essentially you'd be doubling it. And in addition to that, I'm not sure that they're taking into account the fees, right? Because it's not fair to just cut the reward in half, because while the reward is going to be cut exactly in half, the fees won't change at all. So, does this account for the fees? This is an incredibly complicated equation. And I just think to try to boil it down to a page of here's going to be everybody's all-in cost might not be the best way to look at this, I guess, is what I would say. Now, the one takeaway I would say is some of these guys that are near the top of this list, if you're invested in Stronghold, which is a very small company, or Argo Blockchain, which is a very small company, this might be a piece of information where I'd go do my research and say, hey, what is their cost per coin going to be? Because these are very small companies that are not very liquid. So, and I do think there will be companies, I think, and, again, this was a members only thing. I did do my 6 companies that I'm concerned about post halving. I did that for members only because I don't really want to spread, FUD about companies and say negative things. But I do think there's 6 companies, some in, much more peril than others. And I have said on the public channel all year for the last year, I think there will be winners and losers in this equation. So I don't think every single Bitcoin miner is going to the moon. And this is one of the reasons. For some of these smaller Bitcoin miners, I think they will have a problem. To try to calculate HUT's cost per coin, I don't even know what HUT's doing yet. They haven't even told us what they're doing yet. So, who knows what their cost per coin is going to be. TeraWolf is, again, if you look at gross profit, TeraWolf has one of the lower cost per coins. Now they have higher overhead, I think is what they're counting. And TeraWolf also has a joint venture that skews all their financial numbers. So that's why I'm saying each one of these companies, some of these equations are much more complicated than others. TeraWolf is one of them where a lot of their Bitcoin mining isn't even accounted for on a line item basis in their income statement. It's accounted for because it's a joint venture and the equity method as one line. And so it really, it's a complicated equation, I guess is all I would say. So this is something you can take with a grain of salt and maybe use it to say, oh, maybe here's something I need to dig deeper into. But to go to my point that I was making prior to looking at this, just vet everything you see because you don't know where you're getting information. And I'll tell you, let me show you what I found that, was a big mistake. So I just want to point this out goes right to this point. Okay, so Bitcoin ETFs expected to launch in Hong Kong by mid 2024. There was a prominent person on X. They have 1.1 million followers. They put out a post that talked about this, and then they said, this certain fund intends to have $500 billion under management in their Bitcoin ETF by the end of 2024. Okay, so that, I saw this. I didn't see this person's post. I saw a prominent YouTuber, a very large YouTuber, referencing that post, talking about what a boost that's going to be to Bitcoin. Well, guess what? So, if you go to the source, adding to the momentum, Venture Smart Financials, and that's what this person named specifically this, is planning a spot Bitcoin ETF launch with the first quarter of 2024 to manage assets worth $500 million by the end of the year. not $500 billion, right? $500 billion would be the biggest catalyst to Bitcoin in the history of time by many, many, many multiples. So, you got to change that B to an M. This is a nice little catalyst, and it's one of, 100 things over time that's going to help Bitcoin get to where it's going. But so that person may, and again, I'm not naming any names because I'm sure it was obviously it was an honest mistake, but he made the mistake. Another person jumped on it, ran with it, and spread that, got reposted hundreds of times. So this is how, you could, if you were looking, you might run into this 3, 4, 5 times and get the same information and go, wow, $500 billion, $500 billion is going into a spot ETF in Hong Kong. We're, it's on. We're at, so this is why I'm saying this is just I won't, go on any more about this, but this is why I say no matter who you're listening to, nobody's right 100% of the time. People make honest mistakes, whether it's on X or on, YouTube. And so always be careful on what you hear. And if you're going to invest on it, do your own due diligence and try to trace it back to the source so that you make sure it's accurate information. So these numbers are extremely fluid. Everybody is updating their fleet in such a dramatic way that whatever assumptions are underlying here, they're not taking that into account. So all these numbers are likely to change. But, is this something that may lead you to some information that's important? I guess.
Sorry, I'm just reading all the information that's going on out there. And then I was going up and down on my chair. I'm in a crazy mood.
Kevin said, I'd be most, and I think I'm jumping in the middle of a larger conversation. I'd be most worried about shipping, production, and getting miners on time. So, Kevin, thanks for being a member. That is a big concern that I have. All of the Bitcoin miners just made, well, not the majority of the large Bitcoin miners just announced gigantic purchases, of thousands and thousands and thousands of machines. A lot of them are expected in Q1 or H1 of 2024. And, there's only a couple of companies that are manufacturing the majority of the machines in these orders. So are these companies going to be able to meet that demand, or are we going to have a supply chain situation where all of a sudden, everybody's done their thing as far as the Bitcoin miners go? They've done their thing. They prepared. They're ready for the miners, and the miners aren't coming on time. That has not happened in years. That was happening for a while back in the last bull market. So it is something to keep our eye on, for all everybody's best laid plans and best intentions. The machines need to be delivered in a timely manner in order for them to get up and running and start exahashing. So it's a valid question.
So, Tom, are you ready for the next question?
Absolutely. Wow, I don't know. Am I?
So how long are you staying dollar cost averaging into these guys, and how long are you staying in them until, what's your exit strategy?
I mean, for me, I've been saying for the last several months, I've dramatically slowed the pace at which I'm dollar cost averaging. There are several positions that are more than full. So, I try to have a plan going into these investments. For some of these companies, they stayed so low for so long that I dollar cost averaged beyond where I initially expected. And, so plans are fluid, and I'm okay with that, and I feel good about that. But so there will be one round of profit, particularly on my top 2 holdings. They stayed so low for so long, and I will have round 1. I think when Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, I will do a little bit of profit taking. And then, as we approach what appears, assuming that the next cycle goes, in something that resembles the previous cycles, when we start to get to, a what looks like a peak, and I'll be looking at some of the technicals. Those have held true at the peak of previous markets. And the one thing is I'll probably miss the absolute peak. But that's when I see that Bitcoin has gotten way past its high. It's at the point in the cycle where, it's getting near that time. Then I'll start to take some significant profits. I don't anticipate 100% selling off all my positions, but I definitely will take some heavy profits, once Bitcoin's getting close to where I think the top of the next cycle is. So to me, I think I'm anywhere, that could be 18 months from now. And my first profit taking at, if and when Bitcoin gets back to its previous all-time high, that could be 3 months from now, that could be 8 months from now. I don't know. And, every cycle is not identical, and we'll have to see what happens. I think there's more positive catalysts than not. I think we'll get there sooner than later, but it is the guessing game. The exact when is, to me, the guessing part of this. I remain confident that we will hit those price targets. So, that's kind of my plan, but that's probably a more conservative approach. I know, there's a lot of money to be made. These are classic swing trading stocks. So if you're doing that and you're making money, then, congratulations. And there's nothing wrong with that. And, taking profits along the way whenever you decide to, as long as it's according to your plan. Everybody has a different philosophy on that.
It's just rough to see it go down for like it did for the two. I guess it was only. I guess it was a month basically.
I feel like, to let everybody know, I feel like there's a reasonable chance we could get another pullback. So I'm bracing myself. If we do get another pullback, I will, because I do have other positions that are not built out that I really would like to add shares to. So if we get another pullback, I will add some more shares to some of these positions. If we don't, then I won't. I mean, I'm, if this is where I have enough right now that if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But I would love to get some more if the opportunity presents itself. And the other thing that I will do different than this is, and I'm not doing it through Bitcoin, but I will be doing, in the past I was doing it through the futures ETFs, both BitO, which is, a 1x, and BitX, which is a 2x leverage. So I do have positions in those. And I will continue to dollar cost average. I haven't even started to buy into an ETF yet. I'll probably start to migrate those over to one of the spot ETFs and then, continue to dollar cost average into Bitcoin.
Very interesting, Tom. Any other questions? Oh, somebody said they would take. How good is Fred's Thiel? I'd take the guy from Riot or Jason over any of them.
I mean, Jason, we've had Jason on the channel. I think everybody wants to get him back on. I'd love to talk to him again. Fred did come on the channel, and then he kind of whammied us the next day, but, I don't think that was intentional to us. That's just how the timing worked out. I think Fred's a high quality executive. I don't have anything. I mean, that financially, they've made a lot of great decisions. I did strenuously disagree with one of their decisions, but you know what? It's not my company. So, and they're thriving, and I think they will be a big success. So, yeah, that's a very high conviction play for me, Marathon. It's not one of my top 3 holdings. It is one that if I get the opportunity to, I'd love to dollar cost average in at a lower amount. If we get a pullback, if we don't, I'll probably buy in some more anyway. You can do and I don't do true like dollar cost averaging where, every Thursday at 2:00 I buy, $100 or whatever the case may be. I'm a little more buy the dip, opportunistic, averaging in, but you don't always get to buy every share at the all-time low. So as opportunities present, I'm probably going to buy some more of that. We'll see what
So,
happens.
do you still feel that it's a good price point to get into, like Marathon, CleanSpark, Riot, Bitfarms, any of these guys?
Every one of those that you just mentioned, I think, is nowhere near where it's high for the cycle that's the bull market cycle that I think is ahead of us. So, if you bought all of them today, in my opinion, you'd end up a big winner, 12 to 18 months from now. Having said that, George, you know that I never go all in on one day with anything. It's just against my nature. I think it's a risky way to invest. So that's why I dollar cost average. And sometimes it ends up, you know, you're buying at higher dollar amounts. But in the end, it's a tried and true, highly successful formula. It's not for everybody. And there's, you guys need to decide your own way to invest. But what's happening?
Nothing, nothing. I'm just laughing. So, would you, like any, would you do like a swing trade in any or Stronghold or any of those guys?
I've resisted swing trading those. And, I could say I could kick myself because, I mean, you can see, look, today, just to go through the list for those, we went through this at the beginning of the stream. Any was up 25.5% today. DigiHost was up 26% today. Mawson was up 20%. Argo Blockchain just under 22%. I mean, those are 1 day moves. If you're swing trading those, even that 1 day can be, a big, especially if you're doing it through options. A 25% move in a stock can mean a 100 or sometimes a 200% move in an option if you did, if you get lucky. Darren, thank you for the super chat. Getting Windex head on is priority number one. I'm not sure if
That's really
Darren
funny.
likes Jason or
No,
or
I mean, we used to love Jason, but he just kind of fell off the wagon, so to speak, you know?
well, there's some issues that they just haven't resolved, So we quarter after quarter after quarter, things that we thought were going to get resolved, and I'll just say one of them is their hosting. I mean, they just lose money on hosting. It's like ultimately, we asked Jason that, and he said ultimately they want that to be a profit center. But I didn't know ultimately meant like someday over the rainbow, and they're not there yet. So that's definitely going to be my first question for him.
At what point in time do you stop? There's always a reason why people do what they do. You know that?
You would hope. Well, there's always a reason. Is it a good reason?
Hmm.
Mark LeBlanc, who's a member, I just happened to notice, sold Wolf to pick up a bunch of SoFi earnings on Monday. So maybe I don't. I haven't updated my due diligence on SoFi in a while. I know that is another very popular stock, and I hear everybody talking about it. There's 5 or 6 super popular retail stocks. The most popular retail stocks, it's almost like a roll of the dice. It's 50-50. Some of them end up being phenomenal investments, and some of them, you know, they're popular for years and they just never get where they're going. I'll tell you an example of one that I almost got sucked into again after years of laughing at the Neo. There was probably 12 to 15 months where, every day on my feed there was at least one video, Neo to 100, Neo to 300, Neo to 1,000, Neo. And Neo's at like $6 right now. So, I've I thought about it. I looked at it and I'm like, man, this seems so oversold, but I won't do it. I'd rather be in the, Tesla's the best of breed in that world, in my opinion. And if I get the opportunity, I'd rather get into that. I'm not in either of them right now. Trey, welcome to the Talkin Investing Squad. Thanks so much for joining. Much appreciated. You can find a bunch of members only content, videos ready and waiting for you. A bunch of them are on the Bitcoin miners, so you can check those out if there's any that you're interested in. And thank you so much. And of course, you can connect yourself to the members only Discord as well. And we do a members only live stream every Tuesday after the market closes. So we look forward to you joining us there as well. Sour Melon Gaming, who's been a member for 11 months. Thank you, Sour Melon Gaming. Sour Melon Gaming asked Tom. Well, no, not Tom. Did you talk about the Cipher Bitfury news yet? What's your opinion? Sorry, I was late today. Thanks for everything, guys. Early congrats on 20K. Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody that has subscribed. We're over 19,000 subscribers. So, just to take a minute to thank everybody for getting us to 19,000. And obviously, we're striving for 20,000 subscribers. Also, Sarmelon Gaming, thank you. I have that press release open, and I have not talked about that. And it's funny because actually Cipher did not put out a press release relating to this. And I guess technically, well, I don't know. I feel like they should have put out a press release. But nonetheless, let me find the one that was put out. And it was put out by Bitfury. For those of you who don't know, well, I'll find the press release and then you will know. Where'd it go? All right. Give me a second. I had this up. I don't want to guess at these numbers. And it caused a little bit of shockwave in the price of Cipher, but Cipher had a big up day today. Cipher was up 16.5% today, despite this news. If I can ever find it, give me 20 seconds here. 20, 30 seconds. I might have to do this the old-fashioned way.
I'm doing another poll on the channel to try to get us to 20,000.
Oh, nice. All right, so okay, so for those of you who don't know, Bitfury is by far the largest shareholder in Cipher. I mean, they sold, I think, 10 million shares and agreed to a 60-day lockup period that ended January 15th. And then, so this news hit on January 24th. Let's see. Bitfury is pleased to announce a planned distribution of shares in Cipher Mining aimed at unlocking potential value both to Bitfury's underlying shareholders and shareholders of Cipher. Let's get to the bottom line. Bitfury is exploring the opportunity to distribute approximately 126 million shares of Cipher. This would leave them with 50 million, and this would take their ownership from 75%. So this is after they sold their, I think it was 10 million shares. That got them down to a 75% shareholder in Cipher. This is going to get them down to a 20% shareholder in Cipher. So it feels like this has been coming. The fact that they agreed to a lockup period was almost telling us, like, by the way, this is what we're going to do after that. This was a little more dramatic than I thought. I mean, this is a massive amount that is going to hit the market over time. But so this is increasing the float, if you will, but it's not any new shares. So this is not stock dilution. So I do think it's an important distinction. These are shares that already exist, but essentially they haven't been in the float because Bitfury's was at one point an 80-something% shareholder. So, they weren't trading those shares. Well, now all those shares are going to, I think, over time work their way into the float. The initial reaction, let's go to the chart. I mean, rightfully so, and I expected this, and I'm surprised it's recovered this fast. So this was the initial reaction, was this red candle right here. So this was, I'm going to go from where they closed the previous day versus from top to bottom. So this was like, 16 or 17% move to the downside on this news. But you can see with today's candle, they're not almost, they're pretty much exactly. So prior to that news, they closed at $2.74. Today, they closed at $2.75. So welcome to the 3-day journey that was right back to where we started before that news came out. So I guess it wasn't a big deal in the end. Like I said, this is not stock dilution, but it does put a lot more shares out there that are going to be floating around. So thank you, Sourmelon Gaming. I forgot to talk about that one. And for some reason, somehow that window got closed. Oh, here. Now I just found here it is. This is the same thing we just read. So.
Barry, Tom, do you think Musk deserves double voting right with Tesla? Is he the king or is he special?
I think Musk has something in mind over at Tesla, and it's another reason I think the stock's going to go sideways for a little while. He said some comments regarding AI and some activist investors that I think he's not pleased with, and so I think you're going to see him gain more control of the company. That's just my interpretation of the comments that he made. He talked about not wanting to pursue some of the AI stuff inside of Tesla because, if he loses control of that company, and there are several activist investor groups trying to, potentially gain anywhere from influence to control of the company, he does not want that technology in the wrong hands. It's essentially the way he put it. So, what
about the robots that he's coming out with?
Well, I don't know exactly how all that. This is why I'm saying there was almost a veiled threat in there was my interpretation of that. But, for whatever it's worth, something's going on there. Because I know there's a lot of people that's a big piece of the, that's a big piece of the reason they're invested in Tesla. Considered an AI company to a large extent by a lot of people. Like I said, I think they're a dominant EV manufacturer.
What time I got to sneak out of here?
All right, George. Well, it's just about time to wrap it up anyway. So should we say good night and have a good weekend, everybody? Thank you, George.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
This was fun. Had fun.
Yes.
Did we get the 300? I thought we were going to at least get the 300 likes. Did we do it?
293 likes. So if you can smash the like button on the way out, if you'd be so kind. Everybody, this was a nice green day. So hopefully you guys get to enjoy that over the weekend. Hopefully your guys' portfolios improved. Thanks so much to the members, subscribers, and everybody for joining us on the live stream. Thanks to George. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And we will, of course, put out our weekend update video over the course of the weekend, so you can look for that. And we will see the members on the Tuesday only live stream. Have a great weekend.